There we are. We are live back at the Bayou Treats Game House for the Scion Esports, the Founders podcast. We are going to pick up kind of where we left off, and really we're going to kind of dig in a little bit deeper than when we left off. I want to hit very briefly on some things we learned from last week because we are not expert podcasters. We've been playing video games for 35 years or 40 years. We've been doing esports for 12 years, 11 or 12 years, and we've been doing a podcast for 1 week. So a couple things we learned.
You can narrow that down to like for 1 hour.
Yeah, we've
really been doing podcasts for like 1 hour. Yeah, so we learned a lot in our first hour of podcasting. One is you can already see that our camera angles have a little bit of a flash to them. We also figured out that some of the sound effects were a little bit imbalanced, so we got those fixed up. And we did a little work on our microphone thing. So that's kind of what we're doing. That's what we learned. We're gonna move right in. Oh wait. I messed it up.
Toe Jam and Earl music is
coming back. It's coming back. It's okay. It's coming back. It's back. Yeah. So we're gonna move into the retro segment of our show. Yeah. If you don't love Toe Jam and Earl, man, you're really missing out because you can play it in the '90s and you can also play it in the 2010s. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. So we're gonna talk about reliving the '90s retro gaming. That is kind of our era. So let's just rehash what we talked about last week very briefly about the games that kind of made us who we are.
We talked about Shining Force and
Chrono Trigger,
and Toe Jam and Earl,
Final Fantasy VI,
and Final Fantasy VI. Yeah. That was the games.
And so you can tell a lot about like if you're about our
two
age.
Sega and two Super Nintendo balanced.
Yeah,
we're all about fair and balanced.
Yeah. So we're kind of children of. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. We're kind of children of the OG console wars, and that is on our rundown for where we are right now, which is the OG console war. So we talked about, we grew up kind of with Final Fantasy and then into Chrono Trigger, and we were very much Super Nintendo kids, but we also had, part of our friend group had Sega Genesis, and Dustin was a little more of a Sega Genesis kid. And so we got to talking a little bit last week. Dustin touched on this a little bit about what it was like to own a Sega in the world of Nintendo, and what Sega's kind of its image was, and what the niche they were trying to meet was. So I just figured, you know what? Let's dig into that. Let's delve deeper into that and tell everybody about the original console wars. Because obviously now, console war means something different now, right?
Well, it still means the same thing. It's just different players.
It means...
Yeah, totally different brands. Like,
yeah.
Nintendo's still around, but it's not really in the war. It's you're either everybody's got a Switch.
Well, right. Well, Sony and Microsoft won't admit it, but like they're the runner-ups,
right?
Compared to Nintendo, like Nintendo long since won the war.
Yeah.
So do you remember?
Has a Switch.
Do you remember the other runner-up in the '90s era console wars? Do you remember the other? The other competitor?
Neo Geo was one of them. There was a TurboGrafx 16.
TurboGrafx 16 was the other one,
right? So the real console war of today, though, I think is generally accepted to be PlayStation versus Xbox.
Yeah.
Even though, like you said,
PC.
Everybody has a Switch. Yeah, but like you wouldn't say you don't include PC
because it's not a console,
wars, right?
But what I was saying,
it's just clearly superior.
But what I was saying about Nintendo is everybody has a Switch, and then they also play their consoles. And so if you look at the sales and stuff, Sony and Microsoft are battling for the runner-up, really.
Yeah. So let's take us back, Eric and Dustin. Take us back to the original console war, which is, there was a Nintendo and there was we talked about this.
Well, you said we were Super Nintendo and Sega kids, but really we were Nintendo kids before. I mean, we had a Nintendo. We played Nintendo games. We played all the Nintendo games. We played Mario 3,
Yeah, we played all three Marios. We played Zelda 1.
Right, there was a 4-year gap there because we all got Nintendos in '88.
There wasn't a console war, though, because coming out of the video game crash, there was no competitors. It was only Nintendo, and Nintendo kind of revived the industry with the Nintendo.
Yeah, it's like a famous video game crash in the mid '80s.
But then when the Super Nintendo came out, there was a Sega Genesis. Well, I mean, there was a Sega Master System too, but no one that didn't really come to the United States.
Me and Dustin were trying to think of that earlier. We couldn't really even name any games. So it's like it wasn't.
Well, I think Kadash was on it, but
really?
and maybe Bonk's Adventure. Yeah. So there were a bunch of games that were on the Master System and TurboGrafx 16.
I'm not
sure
mistaken. That the Master System originally came to the United States.
I can't confirm that.
Right. So we're talking about Nintendo, Super Nintendo from Nintendo, and the Sega Genesis from Sega.
Yeah. And so Dustin, do you remember when you got your Sega Genesis?
Yes, I do.
Tell us about it.
So I got it for Christmas, and all my cousins, everybody I knew had Super Nintendos, and I didn't really like it. I wasn't impressed. And then my mom always took me. My mom had a catering business, so she always took me to Sam's with her. I was walking down the aisle, and I saw a Sega setup, and it had Sonic, and I thought, these graphics look way better than SNES, which is sort of a funny thing for me, given that we know that I care the least about graphics in our friend group. Like, oh, it's ASCII symbols? I will play that. Anyway, so I saw that, and I was hooked, and I just asked for it. I got it for Christmas. It only came with Sonic. That was the only game I had forever. I think I got Toe Jam and Earl after that. I think those were the only two games I owned for a long time. And then I found out about Sega Channel, and my mom said, $30 a month, and you can have however many games. It's basically like before GameFly and, Xbox Gold Pass and all that. There was Sega Channel, and it was the first cable modem effectively in your room. It was really a dial-up modem. It was a modem that downloaded an emulator for 40 games a month, and you just had everything. Sega was so cutting edge.
Dustin might be the only subscriber. Penny Duffy might be the only subscriber ever in the history of Sega Channel.
I remember it, and I remember, and then there was a 20 or 25 year gap before Game Pass came along, and it was like that was innovative, and it was like by then games as a service was kind of a thing. But yes, that Sega Channel was absolutely innovative, and I don't know anyone else that owned it except for you. I do remember somebody that owned a 32X and a Sega CD, but we'll talk about expandability in a minute also. But that's my Sega Genesis story is not nearly that memorable. I do kind of remember a little bit, but let's talk about Super Nintendo. Because you said your Super Nintendo, Dustin, was like y'all had a Super Nintendo, but you weren't that impressed.
I didn't have a Super Nintendo.
Oh, you didn't have one.
My cousin had one.
Okay.
So like my exposure to Super Nintendo was I would go spend the night somewhere on the weekend. So basically, the weekends that I wasn't hanging out at y'all's house, I was hanging out at my cousin's, and we would play whatever he had.
Yeah. So, Eric, Super Nintendo.
So we got our Super Nintendo.
Wait. You say the event, I'll say the location.
Getting our Super Nintendo.
Well, no, but for when? For what?
What?
You don't
Christmas.
Christmas. Okay, yeah. It was Christmas.
Obviously, everybody got their video games for Christmas.
Christmas and at Mel and Papa's house.
Yeah, right,
so we have that memory, and obviously we played
Super Mario
Brothers.
That's
hooked it up in the living room.
Super Mario World.
Right.
Yeah. Super Mario World was the killer app for they advertised. They didn't advertise Super Nintendo. They advertised Super Mario World.
Yeah, right.
And it was visually better than the Nintendo, but it wasn't. The Sega, when they came out with Sonic, they really pushed the bright colors, but not more than the bright colors, the fast motion.
Right.
They pushed that visual a lot, and they talked about it in their advertising. They talked about the bright, vivid colors and how fast everything moved, and that was different from Super Mario. It's not nearly as fast. I don't know, technologically, I don't think they were technologically as far apart as they seemed between Super Mario World and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Even though Super Mario World is a much bigger game. It's a much bigger game with a lot more to it than Sonic the Hedgehog. But
that was the marketing.
Sega focused really heavily on this really good looking, really fast action, and it looked good, and it was entertaining and fun.
Yeah. We talked about that. I mean, Dustin did earlier about how Sega kind of made their image like Sonic is fast and cool.
Yeah.
And Mario not fast,
and cool.
Not cool.
Almost like not cool. Almost like, a little bit pudgy, just like, and Sonic was definitely sleek and fast and cool.
So, do you remember, Dustin, Sonic, obviously, but Eric, do you remember the launch titles for Super Nintendo? And
Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball.
Was that one of them?
I don't think that was a launch title. Well, we can go to
it was,
somebody
that
is
my oldest memory of Super Nintendo is the very first game I ever saw for it was Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball.
Which was a good game. I remember that game as a fun game, but okay. Hey, by the way, Chronic. We just got a tier 1 sub on Twitch, which is awesome.
Oh,
I think
sweet.
I don't want to forget Arrow before Chronic. Now Chronic, we have 2.
Nice.
And before that, Arrow was our only tier 1 sub. So props to Arrow, props to Chronic. for supporting our channel there. That is awesome, and I just definitely did not want to not give them a mention. But you guys that are watching or listening, y'all get in the old Google and find out what the launch titles were for Super Nintendo.
Super Mario World, obviously.
Super Mario World.
I know Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past was not a launch title.
Nope. Okay.
Pilot Wings was
one of them.
That was one of the launch titles.
I forgot about
Pilot Wings. We
was a
played
great
our
game.
brains out on Pilot Wings. We played a lot of Pilot Wings.
Maybe F-Zero.
F-Zero was another one of the launch titles. Yep. That's the 3 that I could remember. I think there was 5, and some obviously the killer apps like Super Metroid and Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Those obviously weren't launch titles, but F-Zero, Pilot Wings, and Super Mario World were the 3 that I could remember. So, do you remember any of the other? Did Sega have any other launch titles other than Sonic? Like, was there anything else that came out? Like,
zero recollection of that, because like I said, I didn't have. My mom didn't buy me more games. Like I got Toe Jam Earl at some point because I'd played it at a friend's house, and then we got Sega Channel. Like that was, I literally owned probably 3 games the entire time I had my Sega.
So I didn't realize that most of your Sega Genesis experience was Sega Channel experience.
Oh yeah, Sega Channel and written from Cat's Video.
Yep. So okay, one other thing that I want to touch on about kind of in the console wars, because I think, man, if you want to just name titles, we could name a whole lot more Super Nintendo titles than Sega Genesis titles. I don't know if you could probably name a lot more Genesis games, but I think it had a lot bigger
Super Nintendo
repertoire of games.
Much larger library.
That might be a lot more third-party developers, maybe. So
Sega made a lot of its buck on porting old arcade games to their system,
because they were already an arcade publisher,
and they did a lot of sports games. And I think the key difference between Sega and Super Nintendo, which I've stood by basically my whole life, is every Sega game you could pick up was fun for an hour or two. There were no bombs. There were very, very few great Sega games. Super Nintendo was sort of the opposite. You were going to pick that game up, and it was either going to be amazing or real bad.
Full spectrum.
There were no mediocre games on Super Nintendo. There were no great games on Sega, aside from like the handful that like Climax and Camelot made.
So I think if we say Nintendo wins or won on a game library, hit Dustin very briefly. What some just big differences? Let's talk about big differences. Other than
expandability, twice the processing speed of Super Nintendo and the Sega. Innovation on all the fronts. Really good porting of classic titles. And one of the things was you didn't change difficulty on a lot of Sega games because they were old arcade games. You just changed the number of lives you got.
Yeah.
That arcade is a good example, a good summary sort of. The controller, the Super Nintendo controller was better. A little bit smaller.
I do have to agree.
The Super Nintendo controller was better. 4 buttons is plenty. But it was more than 3. Sega, you either had 3 or 6. 6 was wasted. 3 was not enough. Yep. And the configuration was just better on the Super Nintendo. And it was a little bit smaller. It wasn't quite like they call the Xbox controller the Duke.
The Duke, yeah.
So it wasn't that bad.
So we're going to bring that up in a minute.
It wasn't like it was huge, but the Super Nintendo controller was just already so good. It's kind of like now, the PlayStation controller has been so good for so long. It's like, why did anybody try to invent different controllers? But the Super Nintendo controller was
really
better.
like the GameCube controller. The Wavebird is one of the best controllers.
So the GameCube controller...
Hang on, let's go back to the original.
It seemed great because of its predecessor.
Yeah, the
Nintendo 64.
Yeah, that is. But I still think it's nice.
The GameCube one's not bad, but it's kind of like the PlayStation one.
Its contemporary one was also like the Dreamcast controller, which was terrible.
Dreamcast was really bad too. So this kind of segues good into the last thing I want to talk about the console wars, which is, do you see any parallels from the console war of the 90s to the console war of the 2010s and 2020s? In other words, Genesis versus SNES compared to PlayStation.
Hang on,
Xbox.
There's one other thing we forgot to mention, and the Sega Mortal Kombat had blood.
Yes. The Super Nintendo Mortal Kombat
did not.
Yep.
So no one liked the Super Nintendo Mortal Kombat because it had this sweat.
Yeah, sweat. And there was a blood code though, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't there?
You had to put the blood code on Sega.
Even on Genesis, you had to put the blood code in.
Yeah,
that's right. So that was.
But you still had fatalities. All the fatalities were changed for SNES, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so Genesis definitely, again, more adult, more cool.
Edgy.
More edgy. Yeah.
And then back to kind of what Dustin said, that Sega Genesis games tend to be more arcade-like, and the Super Nintendo games tended to be bigger. They tended to be more longer, bigger games with more
you
depth.
definitely had more JRPGs,
Yep.
which, like, in hindsight, I picked the wrong console because JRPG fan, but...
Yeah. So I want to move now into esports and talk about esports for a minute. So if you're watching, if you're listening, Smash Brothers Tournament, Lake Area Adventures, June the 6th, right? June the 6th, 5 to 9. It's going to be totally free. You just have to get into Lake Area Adventures so you can get a membership. You can get a day pass. There's a lot of different ways to get in. You can find out all about it on ScionEsports.com. After we get done with this Smash Brothers Tournament, we just pick Smash because it's what everybody's comfortable with. After this, we're going to do something different. We got another event at Lake Area Adventures. We got one per month all summer long, right?
Right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to get Smash done. It's going to go great. We're going to have 100 players. It's going to be a Smash hit. LOL.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then we're going to move from there. We haven't 100% decided yet, but it's kind of seeming like there's a pretty good chance we're going to give Overwatch another chance. So I wanted to take a little bit of time on this show and talk about Overwatch, kind of talk about its potential as a local esport, its potential globally, our history with it, our potential future with it. So let's start by talking about what made Overwatch catch on. Like when Blizzard pretty much just said, we're going to get into first-person shooters, and they made Overwatch, right? What made it catch on back in, 2017, 2018?
And I remember thinking, it's just going to be any good.
I think one thing that Blizzard did is they said, we're going to take this game, and pretty much from the get-go, they said, we're going to take this game and we're going to make it an esport. Pretty much. I mean, didn't they always have first-party ecosystem for esports?
Yeah, so they almost immediately had like Overwatch World Cup. Before they even had Overwatch League, they had Overwatch World Cup and a bunch of things to develop the community and make it competitive. They knew right from the get-go that was the thing that they were going to build towards.
Yeah, so that we pretty much jumped on when we saw it coming out. We jumped in as
we were
esport,
Blizzard
right?
fanboys.
Right, we played the beta and we played it for a little while, and I remember we played it at game night, and I said, "This game is awesome," and y'all said, "We're gonna see if it's gonna take off or not before we get into it." And so we started actually playing in earnest probably around season 6 or 7.
But we were big time fanboys, Blizzard fanboys.
Blizzard
so
fanboys.
it was an obvious yes. We're gonna play it. Me and Jeremy got early on. I think it was season 1 or season 2. We got so deep into Bronze League that there really was like a Bronze League hell where you could get so low that you couldn't get out, and we did that. Me and Jeremy will remember.
Y'all y'all didn't approach double digits, but y'all
were
like
well down in 3 digits. Well, like 900 was low, and we were like not even anywhere near 900. We weren't in double digits, but we were so far down in Bronze League that you couldn't play people good enough to even get you up, and we just eventually quit playing long enough that our SRs reset. What I was going to mention about that though is it seems obvious now, but ranking systems that were built into the game was new at the time. It was every release, every game that released did not have a competitive matchmaking thing built in. StarCraft actually had to get that added later in StarCraft. So when StarCraft 2 came out, obviously it was there. But like now, every game launches with some kind of competitive matchmaking where you're not just playing. First of all, you're not setting up your own online matches, and second of all, you're not playing against random people you don't have any good idea how good they are. So I'm not saying they invented skill-based matchmaking, but having the game launch built around its own skill-based matchmaking was relatively new at the time.
I think Halo 4 is maybe the only game that I played before that had that.
Halo 4 definitely did.
Right, I know that it did.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's the only game that I can think of that I played before Overwatch.
Was Halo
that had
4 older than Overwatch?
Halo 4 came out in 2012. Overwatch came out in like 2016.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I
Yes,
didn't
because
realize
Beasley
Halo
was still
4 was that
playing
old.
over at the old game house, playing Halo 4.
You're right. I did not realize Halo 4 was that old.
Yeah, so it's been out for a while. So, but the kind of the key though is that Blizzard, when they launched it, they were like, "We're going to make this game.
This is going to be an esport.
This is
We're
going to be an
build
esport.
the whole game around.
Yeah, you're going to play it competitively. It's going to be fair. It's going to be designed to be competitive. It's going to be designed to be played as esport. It's going to launch with a good spectator mode and stats and all that. So that was just like right up our alley, right? Because we were already, it launched in 2016. We were 4 or 5 years into esports.
Twitch was already big.
Yep.
Watching games as a sport was already big. It had gotten big. Again, I did not realize how old Halo 4 was.
Yeah.
Halo 3 people watched it competitively, but Twitch was not dominant then,
Right.
I don't think, during that time. But
Right. I remember we had so our first League of Legends tournament. I remember y'all got a bunch of Twitch swag.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what that was. I was like, what is all this stuff? They're like, some
actually,
company sent it to us.
A guy named John Howell, coincidentally not the John Howell that used to work for us, but a guy named John Howell that was like, I don't know if I think he was the CFO at the time or something of Twitch, and it was kind of an upstart back then. Turns out he's from Louisiana.
It was called Justin.tv.
It was called Justin.tv.
Right.
At the time,
it used to be called Justin.tv.
Yeah.
I think that was probably around the beginning of like StarCraft 2 time, maybe 2010 or so. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
But it was called Justin.tv.
Yeah, so we got connected with that guy when we did our StarCraft 2 tournament, our big one with all the famous casters in 2013. And he was like, man, hey, we want to send you some stuff. This is a cool thing. Y'all let us know. They gave us a little sponsorship. And then we kind of just stayed in touch with them, and they sent us stuff for our next couple of events. One of them was a year later. We did League of Legends.
I remember everybody was super excited about the Twitch T-shirts, which I guess people are always excited about T-shirts.
Free T-shirts. So
Overwatch kind of like was at the pinnacle of all that stuff coming together and people watching the game online.
Yeah.
And like when Overwatch League, how long was it later till Overwatch League started?
I think it was about a year.
Because the whole thing by the time Overwatch came out, how many Twitch viewers does this game have was a big deal.
Right.
Like when StarCraft was, when people were watching StarCraft 2 online, it wasn't like, oh, how many viewers are there on Twitch or anything like that. It was like you just go to WCS and you just go watch it wherever it was. But when Overwatch came out, it was like, oh, they have 300,000 viewers.
Yeah, Jeremy
on
would
Twitch.
be in his office every morning and be like, oh, Overwatch is dying. It's got 100.
it's only got 100,000 viewers on Overwatch League.
It's like, Jeremy, it's a Wednesday morning.
Right.
Yeah.
And now we're already past that, and everyone just watches bathtub streams and just chatting and all that stuff on
But
Twitch.
just chatting we're doing a just chatting stream right now. It's so encompassing.
We talked about that last week a little bit, though. We touched on it, though, about kind of the kind of meteoric rise of Stadium Esports and then the vaporization of Stadium Esports and consuming them by watching the broadcast of Overwatch League is not unlike watching. Most of the people that watch a football game or basketball game don't watch it from the stadium. Most people watch it from
Overwatch is
home.
doing a really good thing now, though. Ever since Overwatch League died, and their new path to pro and all of that is a very community based. Anybody can be on it. Thing. So there's teams that still use the old logos, like Reign has. I think it's Reign or Toronto still has a team in there that is called the Reign or Defiant, whatever they are. They have the same colors and very similar scheme. But anyway, and then there's a bunch of teams that would have been in Contenders and then Open Division and these former pros and every.
What you doing?
Nothing. I just realized I was not recording.
Oh.
We're only going to have half of this in high quality, but I'll download it. I'll download it from YouTube. It'll be fine.
Okay. Anyway,
Sorry.
We're still learning how to
learning how to do a podcast.
So anyway, and they're still doing the broadcast. So Zoe and Jake and I think Reinforce, they're still broadcasting and doing between match commentary, talking about it, giving analytics. They still have casters. It's a very good, robust system still. It's just not backed by all the dollars and millions that these franchises have. It's now a community-based thing. And I think that's really cool that it's still surviving and thriving in this atmosphere.
One interesting thing that I've noticed, and I know we said we're going to talk about anything politically controversial on this podcast, but one thing that's unique about Overwatch is they've really somehow managed to lean into kind of the wokeness, right? And I'm saying that in just a descriptive term. There's a lot of there's every color and gender and race and represented on purpose.
Right.
Like representation was really big for them. But if you went and did that if you have to have that mentality in Smash, you have to have a little bit more progressive, left-leaning, or else the community just exiles you. And if you went and tried to do that somehow in Call of Duty or Halo, it's a little more conservative, a little more right-leaning. The community would run you off if you tried to do that. But somehow Overwatch has leaned into it and not made anybody mad. Everybody still loved the game. So I don't know. That's just kind of an interesting thing that I've noticed is they somehow are the one company that found out how to make woke work.
Well, I think it's not that it's woke; it's that they hired the right people, regardless of any of those things.
Yeah, I don't mean critically. I mean there's a lot of progressiveness and inclusivity in the game without it making half the community be like, oh, that's so whatever.
Yeah, I think they got the right balance of trying to be inclusive, but not going overboard with it, and having girls play your game was a big thing for Overwatch. Yeah. Having girls that play video games used to be. I don't know, now it's probably 92% boys
Yeah,
and
8%
men
girls
and
and
men,
stuff.
grown men like us. But
Instead
it
of
used to be
99%.
99.9% boys and men, and so having girls in the game as characters that are not just
Well, that was the whole
eye
point
candy or whatever.
in the 90s and stuff. The developers intentionally made, in order to make girls play, to market to them, they would make the girl characters overpowered. So you just always knew, like, okay, I'm going to play Street Fighter. I'm going to play Chun-Li because she's overpowered. I'm going to play this character because she is overpowered.
But I don't think even that got the girls to play.
Well, it didn't, but that was a marketing
Right,
strategy.
Not then. It didn't then. But in Overwatch,
But it does seem like
it
they
did.
they got a pretty good feel for
And
how
now
to
it's more normal than it used to
Yeah.
be. I think it's more normal. My little girl plays video games, not as much as my little boy, but when we were kids, you wouldn't dream of that.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more normal. And the point of the discussion is Overwatch, I think, had a lot to do with that, with reaching out to girls and saying, hey, this is cool to play.
Yeah.
And, hey, I think it had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, and that's like we talk about that in car sales all the time. Is like I need every single person out there to buy a car for me.
Yeah.
and
So
it's
you
like
can't
Blizzard,
eliminate 50%.
You can't eliminate. You can't go one direction and eliminate 50%, and you can't go the other way and eliminate the other percent. You got to find a way to toe the line and get everybody to play your game. And that's the point I was making: is that somehow Blizzard towed that line, got everybody to play their game. Okay, we're running out of time. We want to talk about this. Where do we go from here with Overwatch? Where do we go with Overwatch?
Well, if we can get enough teams, I think Dustin probably knows a little bit more about that than I do, but if we can get enough teams, we'll have tournaments. Are there enough teams here to play?
So our Overwatch TO that didn't get to run his tournament, Matthew,
Who we're going to
says-
feature on this podcast in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Already talked to him. He's going to be one of our guests in a couple
Awesome.
of weeks. Yep.
So he has a list of 40 plus players that are local. The plus is some are not local, but there's at least 40 players that are local and or willing to travel, supposedly, to play. And that's at least 8 teams. If I math correctly, that's not my strong suit. But
That would be
believe-
enough to fit. That's as much as we can handle at Lake Air Adventure.
So-
So 8 teams would be a great tournament.
Yeah. So, I mean, and if there's more people that want to play, we could do an online qualifier and have the finals there, like we did with the COD tournament.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
It would be,
Yeah.
I would be super ecstatic.
Yeah, we can do that. It'd be a lot of fun to have an online tournament. We would be so stoked if we had too many players to host a Lake Air Adventures, and
Yeah.
we had to do an online qualifier.
Yeah, and
So-
the high schools are still into Overwatch a little bit. I think, from my understanding, the high schools mostly are playing the car game. Drawing a blank. Rocket League, I think,
Right.
mostly.
So Matthew says a lot of these are collegiate representatives, so it'll be college teams, should be decent skill levels, and it's really fun to cast. Like that was my favorite
dude.
high school esports season was the one where I was just permanent caster. It was such a blast.
I was gonna
probably
go.
couldn't do
I
it
was
now.
gonna take it there. I'm glad you brought that up because it's so much. I just love the spectacle. Like if we can make a good show, I'm gonna love it. And Overwatch, it just yields itself really well to making a great show. So if you're watching right now, if you're listening right now, and you're interested in Overwatch at all, please hop in our Discord, get on our website, let us know. Matthew, if you're watching, keep putting your friends together, keep putting teams together. Overwatch, we're gonna give it a shot. If you guys will play it, we're gonna bring it back. It's time for us to take a quick break right now, take a potty break, refresh our drinks, take a few bites of the popcorn. Stay with us. We're going to take a 2-minute break. We're not going to run any commercials. Like I said, no commercials necessary when the only sponsor is Lake Charles Toyota. So we'll be right back in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back on the Founders Podcast with Eric, Face Tank, Tarver, and Dustin, Grizzletoe, Duffy. We've got a few more things to catch. We're going to talk about... We forgot our Helldivers, Super Earth Flag again, but I do want to talk about Helldivers.
That's your personal order for next week.
Yeah,
Personal order next week. Next week is Corey bring the Super Earth Flag. I want to touch on Helldivers a little more, just because it's so exciting to have a fun game to play that it feels like everybody's playing. So I don't have really a huge agenda. But I wanted to dig into a couple things that I thought of last week that I didn't really bring up. And one of them is kind of like we talked about with the Sega Genesis and Overwatch, which is like what makes this popular. I want y'all to hit on one thing that you think makes this game, what made it catch on, what makes it popular.
I think without a doubt, the fact that whenever you drop out of a game, you can just join back in, and you can just, joining randoms at any point in the mission, you're just reinforcing. It plays so into the lore of the game that anybody can help anybody at any time. and even if you drop out, there's a replacement for you. The fact that you can join back in is so crucial.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that, how that kind of plays into the kind of meta game they've created, which is like the cultural element of the kind of the satirical nature of the patriotism. That's kind of what you were saying. Is not only is it a great gameplay mechanic, it also plays really well into that.
Emerson Beasley's in the chat saying, "Hey, what's up? What's up, Corey?"
Hey, Emerson, what's up, dude?
I don't know if he's still there,
dude. I've played Halo with Emerson. That dude is a crack shot.
Probably just as good, as good, if not better than Beasley.
Emerson is a little bit. I would take Emerson on my team before I took Dr. Ubabi. I think any day.
All right,
that's pretty strong.
Yeah, sorry, I derailed that.
Yeah,
you're talking about dropping in and out.
Yeah, what made it catch on? Like, what made it just like I remember, like when it came out, like 2 or 3 days before it came out, I heard about it, and then 2 or 3 days after it came out, it was like everybody's playing this game.
Yeah, I think the part of the bigger story is like you feel like you're playing this bigger story with these missions, these world, galaxy spanning missions where, you feel not obligated to log in and play like you do with WoW, but it's kind of the same thing. You want to log in and be a part of the story. Like if I haven't played in a few days, like I want to log in and just say I played so that I can, do the salute to my buddies and just be a part of the community. And I like that it's not fighting against your co-players.
There is a little bit of
with your co-players.
It is sort of fun, tongue-in-cheek, sort of gentle ribbing, the sort of not playing shame or the democracy shaming you give your buddies.
Shaming, yeah. So look, that's
liberation shaming.
I got 5 or 6 minutes. Like that's we're gonna talk about that extensively because that's a huge part of this game, right? One gameplay mechanic that I want to talk about that we didn't really talk about before we get into the loyalty factor is the way that they kind of balance the game so that, like, I'm going to use us as an example. Dustin, you've been kind of grinding a little bit. You're on 28 or 30.
8, I think.
28. Eric's on like 22. I'm on 18. I don't feel the pressure to grind to catch up because it doesn't matter that I'm only on 18 and then you're on 28. If we were playing WoW or if we were playing even Call of Duty and you were twice my level, we're not even playing the same game.
Does level matter in Call of Duty?
It does because of all the guns,
the weapons,
okay.
All the additions to the weapons.
Yeah, so like part of Call of Duty is when you're level 1, you log in, you just get farmed. You just get farmed to death to get experience, so you can get the guns that other people are using to kill you. And like in WoW, you literally can't even play the game together if you're that far apart. So that's where like this obligation I have to keep up. If I fall behind, my party's not going to be complete. That doesn't exist in Helldivers. Like it's just as much fun to play with somebody that's twice your level. They've somehow made the game fun. You have different stratagems and stuff like that. But
and you drop all your stuff. So even if your buddy, one of the things that we do is my buddy Don has all of the battle passes and he has all the weapons. And so he's like, I'll talk about, man, I wonder if this gun's any good. It's like, well, next time we go, I'll just load in with that one, and then whenever I die, you can just pick
it up and try it out.
Yeah. So that's super cool as well. The weapon share. The only thing you can't do that with is the secondary weapons, which there's only 4 of them anyway.
I usually forget I even have a secondary weapon.
When you're switching to your secondary, it's like I'm about to get killed.
It's spray and pray. Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, I use the Senator a lot because it's because my other weapon is the shotgun, so I get a better range with that.
Right.
And then
There's
it also has
ways to do it.
It has really good knockdown power still.
Yeah.
So if you're a good shot, it's a very viable weapon.
Yeah. Okay, so Halo. A lot of people play Halo. There's a million people out there that play Halo religiously, grind on the ladder, and they don't have any idea who Master Chief is, who Cortana is, who the UNSC is. They don't know anything about the game. Like Dustin's raising your hand. Don't know anything about it. Call of Duty, same way. Nobody cares about the campaign. Nobody cares about the story. You're just dropping in. You're just fighting. There's a lot of games like that. And we talk about WoW a lot too, but WoW's the same way. Like, I'm not skip, right?
I'm the only person that played for the story.
Right.
And it's good. It's not that the story's bad. It's just that nobody cares about it. Yeah. Somehow, Arrowhead got everybody to buy in to this meta game of you're not just playing the game. You're also role playing as this patriot for Super Earth.
Yeah, you don't even
Usually
realize,
multiple Patriots.
Yeah, you don't even realize you're doing it, and then you're talking to your buddies about convincing them to come fight for liberty, and
Yeah.
you're doing the Super Earth salute,
Super Earth salute everywhere in
like,
real life
to say goodbye.
Part of that magic, though, is the adversarial nature that Arrowhead has created as themselves as the enemy with the creation of Joel. You're like, you have to they put a name on the enemy other than just the Terminids and the in-game thing. You want to defeat this guy who's making all these bad things happen to your game.
Overwatch had Jeff, but like Jeff wasn't supposed to be the bad guy.
Right.
They've made the developers, they've created themselves kind of as this shadow government running the game and running Super Earth.
Right. But at the same time, they've also stepped up for the community in the PSN battle where they said, this isn't our battle. We didn't know about it. Sony let it go. And they made this announcement, and Sony, to their credit, only took them 48. It took the work weekend.
I was surprised. I was really surprised when I
decision.
saw that this morning. I was really surprised they're reversing that.
Yeah. The community manager told
sorry.
people, he said, "Look, don't complain to me in Discord. Go change." He subtly told people, "Go change your review on Steam. That's the only place your vote has any power."
Yeah.
And people did it. It dropped. Sony said, "We hear you." And now the reviews are climbing back up.
They got 100,000 good reviews today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
it's climbing back up 1% or 2% every couple hours.
That was one of my questions I was going to ask y'all is how do you think the community is going to respond to that 180?
Well, they had 100,000 positive reviews today. It's already
so the answer's already there.
I think all the people that were upset about it, they'll continue to come back to the game. And Arrowhead has built loyalty in them for going to bat for the consumer at this point.
So Arrowhead has done a really good job of being vocal from the developer standpoint and talking to people online, which is a very dangerous thing to do. I'm in politics a little bit, and even at Toyota, like you don't ignore what's on social media and stuff, but it's a fraction of the public. And people think that whatever's on social media is reality, and it's not. It's completely devoid of reality. It's a separate world, and you can't just listen to everything that's on social media. But with gamers exclusively, if you say only gamers, it's a much higher percentage of they're on communicating with the developers, and they're on all the forums and on Reddit and all that talking about the game. So Arrowhead has done a good job of using their platforms to engage with it, which is extremely dangerous and extremely risky, and you can go way south by doing that really fast. But what I don't understand is the mystery of crossplay being very, very, very glitchy.
Yeah,
they just every balance patch that comes out, there'll be a balance patch or new content. Oh, that's something else about new content, but we'll get to that in a minute. They haven't addressed this thing about crossplay. I guess
they have addressed it. They addressed it in every single set of patch
notes. But it's
notes.
still a known issue. Yeah, so it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
Speaking of...
We love you, Justin. We love you, Justin Martindale. Keep fighting for democracy on the PlayStation.
It's a whole different set of planets over there.
Yeah.
Is it really?
No, I don't think so.
What did I just say? That's go back to... new content. So they've also... Arrowhead has done a great job of keeping content at what apparently is a manageable tempo for them. So like in Halo, what the mistake everyone agrees they made is they have this great game and they just couldn't make any content for it. Somehow, something about their development, cadence or their number of developers or something.
Something about their pipeline.
The game sat there dead, and we're addicts. We're absolute addicts to Halo. But eventually, after doing the same thing over and over and over again, there's no new content. And when it does come out, people hate it. Somehow Arrowhead has also nailed you feel like there's constantly new stuff happening, and just their ability to change the major orders, which doesn't require a lot of technological advancement for them. I guess it lets them keep the game alive and keep the game fresh. And Halo did not 343. They did not figure that out.
Yeah,
I am very surprised that Arrowhead weathered the storm of the launch.
Dude, you launched your game broken. That's
usually like broken game at launch is usually a DOA situation.
Yeah. And they pretty quickly said, guys, we released Helldivers 1 and it had like 50,000 players and it was a good game. And then we released Helldivers 2 and it had on day 1 a million players. And we did our best. We're sorry.
Yeah.
And again, though, they stayed engaged. They talked about it. And they did. It's cool to see them kind of role playing as well. Like they're not, like you were saying, they're not just the devs.
Right.
They're also like the Super Earth Shadow Government.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of into the role play as well. And you never know if you can trust them or not, but that's kind of how it's designed. So it's just a great game.
If they would start rolling out the patch notes in universe as like Super Earth military updates, someone suggested that on a Reddit that I was reading, and they started doing it. Like they started going back and rewriting the patch notes.
They have,
and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
I wish that would be so legendary if they would do that. They would start rolling out the patch notes.
They have responded in their official media to a lot of the like memes and Helldiver stuff. Like there's one about the Eagle. The Eagle pilots getting their legs cut off for this particular upgrade. And they, like, within the same day, posted a response to it that says, "We deny all claims that we have genetically modified our Eagle pilots."
Have to get their legs cut off for something in the shit.
Yeah, it's more cockpit space. I forget exactly what the upgrade is because I don't use
the upgrade
Eagles,
is we cut off the pilot's legs. Okay. All right. Okay. That's an awesome game. We're gonna talk about it every week, probably. We got to move through this. We're running out of time. It's time to go to the mailbag. We have a couple of quick questions that we're gonna dig into a little bit. So let me pull up my questions here while the sweet intro music plays. Dustin, don't forget you owe us some 8-bit, 16-bit. Theme songs.
Look, I'm gonna have time in my life between picking blackberries with my daughter and walking my dog at some point.
All right. So the questions for the day are, we got It's Me asks, do you have any funny stories? You know what? Let's do that one second because we're gonna run on that. All right. Let's do this other first. Jay Lyons asks, what about Call of Duty, Apex, and Fortnite? Big BR games that are played in our area. He actually asked that question during the stream last week. Like Chronic actually asked a question this week, right now during the stream, that we're gonna hit next week. So Chronic, we saw your question. We just don't have time for it tonight. We're gonna get it next week. But Jay Lyons says, what about Call of Duty, Apex, Fortnite, big BR games that are played in our area? They are. We play them. A lot of people play them. So I think the implied question is, are you guys ever going to do those esports?
Right. So probably Fortnite technologically is extremely difficult. There's no platform in the game to do it. So I would say it would probably be low on the totem pole. And I don't know much about Apex.
And look, I've been trying to get us a custom game server license from Epic for like 5 years.
But if we had enough players to do Warzone, we probably could do that. We also would not be opposed to doing an online Warzone where everyone plays from their houses, coordinating that some way and maybe offering prizes or something like that. Like I said, we mentioned last week about this question. Our opposition to games is non-existent.
Doesn't exist.
We have no opposition to any games. Yep. We only are interested in finding the players.
There was a soft opposition to Call of Duty at one point where your terrorists attacking Americans, and that was sort of...
well, there was a couple. Yeah, it was just kind of the message of the game. It was very violent and it was very realistic, and it was there was a lot of realistic military violence that we kind of shied away from early on. Now we've kind of softened up on that, and also it was you had to pay $60 every year to play the game, and we were kind of shy on that also. But now,
especially since we provide all the copies generally.
Right, we provide all the copies. It's very difficult to say we're going to play a game that costs $60 a year per player. Now, games as a service is becoming a thing. Microtransactions, games are microtransaction supported now. You keep playing to have the game, you keep paying to have the game developed. That's just kind of a little more common. So it's not that, again, that's not a thing to keep us from doing the game anymore.
And we did Valorant one time at the Old Game Lounge and had a lot of success with that. But basically, to this guy Lyons, bring us some players and we'll do the games. Yeah. It's just about we're trying to figure out where are the local players, mostly local. Where are the players at? That's where we're going to go. Yeah. Our opposition to games is non-existent. We have no opposition to games.
Yeah, so Jay Lyons, thanks for the question. Chubzilla, straight off of Amazon, dude. It came from Turkey, I think, and it was like $100. So I bet you could get one for your house. Chubzilla says, "Oh my God, I love that rug so much."
Oh yeah.
It's kind of subtle. But yes, it's Triforce.
Whenever I got home,
it was not expensive. It took it like 3 months to get here because it came from somewhere along the way.
And did you order it whenever the boat was sideways in the canal?
Maybe so. Yeah.
Maybe. In the Suez Canal. Yeah.
It came in a bag, like shrink wrapped, like only this big.
We had no idea what it was, and they were like, "Oh, this is that rug," and
it just kept going and going and going.
Whenever I got home, the first thing Jess said was, "If they get rid of that rug, I want it."
No. It's. So anyway, Jay Lyons, thanks for your question. It's Me asked, do you have any funny stories? We're gonna have to limit ourselves on how much trivia we want to do versus how much time we want to spend telling stories. He says, do you have any funny stories like from when you were setting up Sci-Fi-Con and organizing it?
So this is not about Sci-Fi-Con, but funny story number one because it's old. It's from the origin.
I think he just really generally means about Scion.
We were having a StarCraft 2 tournament very, very early on. It was actually in this house when this house was not nearly as cool as it is now. It was just a normal house that we lived in. But we had set up this house to have a StarCraft 2 tournament. It was Thanksgiving Eve. We called it the Thanksgiving Open. It was our very first StarCraft 2 tournament. We were cooking
Invitational.
Thanksgiving Invitational. Right. It wasn't open. We were cooking Thanksgiving lunch overnight the night before. We had a Cajun microwave, which is like a Crouchon delay kind of. You put everything in the same, you let it heat overnight. If you don't know what Cajun microwave is, it's a slow cooker. It's like a low-tech slow cooker. Yeah. You just put a fire on top of this box and let it
The box
cook
is wooden,
overnight.
by the way.
So
The outer box is
It's a metal frame inside with wooden on the outside to keep it insulated, and you light a fire on it. All right, so we have the StarCraft tournament. It's obvious where the story's going. We had the StarCraft tournament going on. One of the guys that wasn't playing said, "Hey guys, y'all's thing's on fire in the backyard." So we run out there.
Well, no. Initially, we were like, no, it's supposed to have a fire on it.
It's supposed to have a fire on it. And he's like, no, it's definitely on fire.
No, it's not supposed to be like this.
Go out, put it out, come back in, play a little more StarCraft. Later, the guy's like, "Guys, y'all's thing is still on fire." It's like, no, it's supposed to have on fire. And it was like completely burned up.
Yeah.
The whole, like the food kind of got cooked, but the whole Cajun microwave had just completely burned up. Just because we were in here playing StarCraft, basically just letting it burn.
The turkey was burned to a crisp.
Yeah.
But inside the turkey, we had stuffed the turkey with bacon wrapped chicken.
Yeah.
And the bacon wrapped chicken inside the turkey, inside the Cajun microwave. Delish.
Yeah. So that's story from the origins way back in the day of Scion Esports. Burned up our Cajun microwave.
There's a couple little just kind of like ongoing jokes, like what's her name? Lamb Chop.
Lamb Chop.
We don't really know where the lamb chop came from, right?
Right. We were just setting up cameras at the old game house one day, and it was just in the room, and I just grabbed it and was like, "Who's going to operate this?" And I just put it on the boom and as the camera operator, and that's just sort of a thing that's
like 10 years ago we did that, and now like lamb chop comes to every
I don't even know that I was working
event.
at Toyota yet.
You might not have been. Every single Scion Esports event, she's there. She's usually operating a camera. Not always. She has been interviewed a few times.
Oh yeah, Lamb Chop has been on the desk the year
that's
that
right.
Clayton was the MC.
Yep. Oh, actually, well, no, we did that. Clayton did it once, and then the guys from Halo spent some time with Lamb Chop as well. Yeah,
that's right.
The
Why Not guys.
Why Not and Clutch interviewed Lamb Chop there. So probably her closest
Brush with fame, other than having her own show.
Other than having her own show 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And then we are 10 years into almost doing a time-lapse recording of a setup and a breakdown.
Every year is going to be the year.
This year we thought about it and opted to not, though. So it's closer. We thought about it beforehand this time instead of after.
But like next year, though, we're going to do it.
Are we going to do it big next year?
Huh?
Are we going to do it big next year?
We're doing it big next year.
Okay.
We're doing it big. We're doing it big.
So the other quick story that we mentioned earlier, we don't probably have a lot of time, right? But we were doing League of Legends. So we're doing League of Legends.
Oh, yeah.
It's our first time to do a really big tournament. Like, it was probably the first really big. We had 30 PCs. We gathered up PCs.
It was definitely our first
SciFiCon. No, it was after the StarCraft 2 tournament.
It was our first SciFiCon.
A massive StarCraft 2 tournament.
StarCraft tournament,
But the first SciFiCon, we're going to do League of Legends. It was a really big game at the time. And the Civic Center guys they tell us they have these offices we can use for this tournament. And
I still think that was our coolest setup, though.
It was cool setup.
Usability wise. But anyway, so we go in, we tour the Civic Center with these guys, and we go in this like dungeon in the back.
Right.
It's like someone's office.
If anybody knows where it is, it's the Buccaneer Room, which has 4 other offices in it. And you walk in, you go to the left, down this tiny little corridor, then you go into this tiny little office, and they move this false wall.
Yep.
And then you walk between 2 other walls that are like that. If you've ever seen the movie People Under the Stairs, there's the area where Roach
Don't worry about
exists.
That. We'll keep going.
Where it's it's just the dead space between the walls, and there's just all these cables and everything coming down.
It's like a dungeon within a dungeon within a dungeon within a dungeon.
Yeah.
And they're saying, "Okay, guys, this is where we're going."
And the last air conditioning vent is like in the first.
Yeah.
And they tell us there's internet. We have internet. We're like, "Are you sure you have internet here? Because this looks like it's from 1940. Like the offices are old to begin with." Like, no, we have internet. So we go within a dungeon within a dungeon within a dungeon, and we go into like an attic where the internet allegedly is. And it's like, man, it's not the best internet ever. It's not the best internet. It's like definitely. I think it was a cable modem at the time, but it was like a.
No, it wasn't.
Was it a dial-up or whatever? It wasn't dial-up. It maybe it was a T1, like part of a T1 or something. But the point is, it was
a radio
within
tower.
A dungeon with it. Is that what it was?
Yeah. So they got a radio signal from across town on whatever the city hall used.
Yeah.
And
And
we
it was
were
like,
running a
so
League
it's
of
like
Legends
1
tournament.
megabit from, and it was terrible. And it was like a dungeon within a dungeon. It was
also,
hot.
it was
I don't
also
remember, I don't even
on.
remember, but it was really hot in there.
It was
with all
not
the
limited,
computers
so it
going.
was all the same internet that everybody that used the internet for free at the Civic Center used.
And that is the story of how we ran an entire League of Legends tournament on cellular hotspots.
Cellular hotspots. We went to AT&T and we literally said, we have an internet issue. We have a video game tournament we're trying to play. How many hotspots can you give us in the store? We bought like 5 little cellular hotspots. And we, on the fly, figured out how to hook 5 computers to each one of those. And each team had a cellular hotspot. And they loved it. Man,
Comparatively, they did.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the end of Dr. Ubabi, and where I basically became what we would consider the community manager, the player outreach, because I was became the one responsible for walking into the room and going, "Hey guys, the internet's still working," and you just see all these heads turn with malice in their eyes,
and they're sweating because it's so unbelievably
so hot.
hot.
They're literally sweating
because they're 3 offices deep in a dungeon within a dungeon, and but it worked. We got through it. And
that's honestly still, that whole tournament is still one of my best esports memories.
It was definitely a memory. Okay, we're running out of time. We got to do some trivia. Here's your whiteboards. If you're in the Discord, don't forget that way we play this game is if you're in the Discord, it's Eric versus Dustin versus the Discord. We owe Chuck Chilla and Arrow a Scion Esports tumbler, and we made a little modification. Where Dustin was able to eliminate some categories to make it a little bit more competitive. So
what did we eliminate?
Halo.
We eliminated Halo. We eliminated Legend of Zelda, and
because I've only ever played the original Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
I've only ever played really Halo 2.
Did you eliminate Chrono Trigger? You don't eliminate Chrono Trigger.
No, but
I've at least played through Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, it was.
Let's just go. It's on the wheel.
We'll see what they are. Here we go. So we're gonna spin. If you're in the Discord, here comes your question, Eric and Dustin. You gotta write your answers on the whiteboard.
So I can't cheat. That's right.
Yeah. And it is going to be
this is
question.
Like it doesn't matter if I know this.
GG
Eric is
Discord.
the undisputed champion.
Right.
Sorry, Discord.
Sorry, Discord.
How many hit points does Warren have at recruitment?
It depends on what level they're on.
Okay, this is
right. When you recruit him, it's probably about 80. I don't know exactly, but
there are 22 tarot cards in the game. How many of them start with the letter S?
Oh my goodness!
Oh goodness!
You guys are supposed to know all about Ogre Battle,
dude.
Right?
Yeah, that's.
But I don't know.
Just think of them in your head and then write them down.
Okay.
Just full disclosure. Last time I talked about, I knew most of the answers to the questions. I absolutely do not know the answer to the Ogre Battle questions.
Oh,
so I'm not. This is not stuff I know. I tried to make them hard because y'all know everything about Ogre Battle. This is basically the hardest question in the thing. So I don't think the rest of them are that hard.
How many are there?
3.
God, there's 3.
That's what I was gonna guess.
You should have guessed it and said, "Let's answer."
Yeah,
okay. So
that's fine.
Sure? In Ogre Battle, there's the tarot cards. There's 3.
Yes.
That start with S.
Yeah.
Well, one of them is strength.
Strength is one of them. That's correct.
Sorcerer is one. Right? Nope. No, magician is one. That's what I was thinking.
Sorcerer is not one.
If you could think of one of the other ones, if you could think of one of the other 2, you would think of both of them.
You think? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just based on what I can tell, these are similar words.
Priestess, Emperor, Empress, Fool, Tower, Hierophant.
And you know a bunch of them.
Yeah. Lovers, Luck, Hangman.
All right.
Devil, Demon. They're 2 different cards. Devil and Demon are 2 different cards.
Sun.
Sun is one of them.
Yep.
Moon is another one.
Yeah, Moon is one.
Then
Sun is one.
Sun, Moon,
Star. Star is agility plus. Star, strength, Sun, Star.
All right. Took you a little while.
Yeah.
Took you all a little while, but you got it. All right, let's hit another one. So
I'm gonna give that one to Eric.
Eric's gonna get
but Sun and Star. It took me a little while. Strength I knew immediately, but Sun and Star I basically forgotten. Sun
so
is
one for Eric.
Yep.
Sun again.
Changes the date and changes the
Star
time.
is so worthless.
Star is
too.
agility plus, which is good for dragons because dragons have terrible agility. It is good to get an agility card with dragon.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
This wheel, Corey, your wheel is
Hey,
broken.
you have to go with the Wheel of Destiny.
Wheel of Destiny
You can't
decides,
deny the Wheel of
All right.
Destiny.
Okay. All right.
That was an excellent question, Corey, by the way.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. To ensure the most positive outcome, which character should you use to confront Gilbert in Sharam District?
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this.
Chup Chill says the weighted wheel gets you every time.
Yeah, my handwriting's so terrible.
So just so y'all know, if y'all keep rolling Ogre Battle, no one's going to watch this show in the Discord.
Right.
Like, they're going to just leave the Discord so
We're
fast.
not rolling Ogre Battle. You are.
Well, dude, it's the Wheel of Destiny.
All right.
You can't deny the Wheel of Destiny.
Okay,
Isn't that what it's
who do you
called?
fight Gilbert with?
Canopus.
All right.
I thought it was Warren.
All right, it's Canopus.
Right.
Eric gets
Oh.
2. All right. Come
Ogre
on,
Battle, Ogre
Wheel
Battle,
of Destiny.
Ogre Battle. Let's go, Ogre Battle. I'm going to laugh so hard when it's Ogre Battle.
At least I have
Ogre Battle.
answers this time.
Yeah.
Chrono
Chrono
Trigger.
Trigger.
Chrono Trigger,
All right,
okay.
Chrono Trigger question.
Hey, we don't have
coming in hot.
erasers.
I
here
use
you
my
go.
thumb.
Here goes your official Scion Esports eraser.
Chrono Trigger.
Are they?
All right.
No, they're not.
Okay,
They're
what
close.
treasure found in the basement of Guardia Castle is the king put on trial for stealing?
I'm
The whole trial subplot.
I got nothing.
What's the?
I have a guess. I'm not sure. I'm not positive, but I have a guess.
Somebody in the Discord should know this one. It's the whole entire trial is about this one thing.
Dude, I don't even remember the trial.
It's late in the game. It's after you can. It's kind of like one of the optional quests you complete to get the best ending.
I might have not done that
Yeah.
in my one playthrough. Is that after you had
I actually have
Magus?
2 guesses. I have 2 guesses.
You only get one in this game.
I know, right? But I'm gonna write them both down.
Anybody in the Discord? Y'all know? Let's see. I'm talking about. I'm saying Discord. I just realized I was looking at the Twitch chat. Nobody knows it in the Discord. It doesn't think. All right.
Lewis is saying something.
What is your answers?
So my main answer is the prism shell.
All right. That is not correct, but it
Okay.
is close. What is your second? What is your second guess?
Yeah, you can have my other guess.
That's close?
Yes.
Well, the second guess was going to be the Queen's Pendant.
It's not. It's the rainbow shell.
Oh, that's what I meant.
You use it to make
Dude,
prism helms.
That's what
and
I
stuff like
meant.
that. Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Rainbow shell.
I'll
I thought you used the rainbow shell to make the sword.
You can
Swallow
pick.
the sword,
You-
the rainbow
okay.
sword.
Yeah,
It's called
you-
rainbow.
So-
Rainbow
Rainbow sword.
called
Yes,
rainbow.
rainbow.
I thought that's what it was going to be, but I
Or you
couldn't
can make
remember
a
the
prism.
name.
You can make a rainbow sword or a prism dress or 3 prism helms.
Okay.
Right?
I think you get the sword no matter what.
Oh, is that
And
what
you
it
can
is?
either make a dress or 3 helms.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you get the sword and the shades no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was close.
All right.
I'll take the L though because I should have got it exactly right. Prism shell was
So Eric. It's 2-0. What do y'all think? Like 3 more questions and then we'll call
yeah,
it
that's
a night?
good.
Yeah. Oh.
You want to do another one?
Yes.
Let's
Let's
do
do
Chrono
it.
Trigger.
Yeah.
We gotta let the Wheel of Destiny
Yeah.
decide.
Wheel of
fine.
Destiny has to decide.
Chrono Trigger again. The
If
good
they were
thing is,
easy,
I
it
think the
wouldn't be
Discord.
trivia.
I think our Discord followers like Chrono Trigger. Okay, what Chrono Trigger character makes a cameo appearance to explain the function of save points in Lahan Village in Xenogears? What Chrono Trigger character makes a cameo appearance in Xenogears?
I've never played Xenogears.
Okay.
Man, I played the heck out of Xenogears, but I don't remember a Chrono Trigger character appearing in it.
All right,
I only have 2 guesses, and this is guess 1. I just want to see if I'm right, just based on the character.
Is it one of the main characters?
Lewis got it. The Discord got it.
Did he?
Yep.
Did I get it?
Is it one of the main characters?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
too late.
I would guess Luca.
Wait, are you guessing Robo then Luca?
My real guess is Robo. My secondary guess would have been Luca.
The correct answer is Luca.
Okay, that's my guess. That's my guess. After I don't get it. I don't claim that one. I did not know that one. And I've
So
played
the Discord gets
Xenogears.
one.
a
I have
bunch.
not. It just seemed like it would make sense that it would be one of those 2.
It's a great game. The graphics are kind of terrible, but it's a
Oh, I
great
might
game.
win this one.
Oh, okay,
Overwatch.
Dustin's probably gonna get this one.
Okay, what is the name of Overwatch's take on the classic trope of a global conflict that sees robots turn against their human masters?
Oh, that is called.
What's the name of the big war between the robots and the humans? Lewis knew the answer to that. By the way, Lewis said Luca. He knew it, and he said Xenogears was awesome.
Oh, dude.
Chub Chilla, you are so coming on this show and talking about Overwatch. You don't come watch our podcast. You don't tell me you're not going to come on and talk about Overwatch. Come to the podcast, listen to the trivia, and immediately answer the Overwatch questions correctly, and then refuse to come on and talk about
Why can
Overwatch.
we
So you're
not-
coming on
why
and talking
are we
about
not
You can do
Overwatch.
whatever you want. It's fine. It's
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to come.
I know it because it's in it. There's an event. Here we go.
I don't know. I don't even have a guess.
Oh, Chub Chilla says, listen, if you just want to talk about Overwatch lore, he's in. We can talk about that.
Null
What?
Sector.
No.
Is that not it?
Nope.
Oh, that's just the faction?
That's probably maybe one of the factions or something.
How?
What
Why
is
can we
the-
not see? We can't see the Discord feed in Discord. I guess it's
can't?
just
That's
us.
weird. I don't know. I saw Lewis type the what's the
What
question
is the question
again?
again? It's the last
Yeah.
thing we saw.
Okay, so the answer is the Omnic Crisis.
Oh, I know that now. That sounds familiar.
And
yes.
the Discord gets it. So
Yes.
all right, we got to bring this to a close.
Let's
We're
do
gonna
one more.
One more question. You want to do? I mean, we can go as long as we want. Just edit it out. But
Yeah. Come on, Wheel of Destiny.
No.
Trigger again.
Huh? You want to do another one?
Do it super fast.
Okay, super fast Chrono Trigger question. What is the name of the music track used as an intro to Reliving the 90s segment on the first episode of the Founders podcast?
Oh god.
What's the song?
I have a guess. Well, let's just do it quick. Undersea Palace.
Nope. Close.
No,
Ocean.
it was the one from the time, wasn't it?
Nope.
Was it not?
You're warm.
It's not Undersea Palace.
Nope.
Ocean Palace.
Nope.
Undersea.
Well, no, but it's from 12,000 BC.
Oh, is it Ayla's theme?
Nope, that's from 65 million BC.
Yes.
Shallow's theme.
Shallow's theme. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
One more
okay,
question.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh god, I just wrote all over the stream deck. Whoops. Oh my goodness, what did I do?
There's lots of good stuff on the Wheel of Destiny that's not Ogre Battle and Chrono Trigger. There's Warcraft is on there. StarCraft is on there.
I don't know that I know any Warcraft lore either because I've only played the first one. Like, unless you're asking
It
me,
says
like,
Warcraft.
I know.
Yeah, no, it's not just Warcraft 2 or Warcraft 3 or World of Warcraft. It's all Warcraft. Oh, I love Chrono Trigger. Man, I'm getting tired of it.
You can skip it. You can skip it. What was the question though? While it's
You want to
going.
know the Ogre Battle question?
While
was?
it's going.
The Ogre Battle question would have been, in what year did Ogre Battle March the Black Queen release in North America?
I don't know that one. I don't know.
I would guess 96.
Oh my goodness. Y'all want to ask?
Something's
or no?
wrong with the Wheel of Destiny.
Okay, what message is displayed at the end of the special game over sequence that only plays when you die fighting Lavos? When you die fighting Lavos and you see all the meteors rain down on the domes.
I remember that whole thing,
Yeah,
but
what does it say?
I don't know that I've ever died fighting Lavos.
yeah,
Like, I over-leveled myself so much in my one playthrough.
yeah. I remember the scene, but I don't remember what it says. We need to get off.
Oh,
this.
Chub Chill is bringing politics into it. He says this wheel is the American voting system. What he means by that
There's
is
only two
bad
options.
options, and you only get to choose between those two bad options. Yeah.
I think
or
that's
two,
fair.
two good options,
Or two, yeah.
in this wheel.
Okay. Yeah. I think we can all agree that Chrono Trigger and Ogre Battle are fantastic. They're both
Right.
good options.
I just
We're just a
don't-
little tired of answering questions from the same two games.
All right.
Oh
Overwatch.
God!
Okay. all
I
right,
think there's
well,
something wrong with the Wheel
There's
of
something
Destiny.
wrong with the Wheel of Destiny.
What
no
about
Shining
Shining Force
Force?
and
All right.
Warcraft?
Okay,
and-
this is a great question.
Okay.
This is a great question. I don't know if y'all gonna know the answer to it or not, but it's a great question. Which Overwatch hero was a professional StarCraft player in the game's lore?
Oh, dude.
That is a great question. I mean, I have a guess. Winston.
Dustin is correct.
Diva?
Eric is not. Dustin says Diva. Eric says Winston. The correct answer is Winston. Dustin gets on the board.
No, the correct answer is Diva. Right.
I'm sorry, the correct answer is Diva. Dustin gets on the board. Last question. This is it. Last question. It's gonna be a good roll by the Wheel of Destiny.
Unless it's Ogre Battle or Chrono Trigger.
Final
Fantasy.
Fantasy.
Okay, that's
All right,
good.
That's
Yeah.
good.
It's not about 6 or 9, probably out.
All right.
Oh, by the way, go ahead.
Okay.
I have some-
This
I have
is
something
this
to
is a good
report.
question. I think y'all know this one. Who is the only character in Final Fantasy IV, 2, if you're OG like us, to join or rejoin the party 3 times? In Final Fantasy, for those of y'all that aren't listening, or
that's
don't know,
easy.
Final Fantasy 2, you don't get like party select like you do in the later games. You get who you get at that point of the story. One person comes and goes several times. He's kind of famous for it.
Oh,
I only have one guess.
I think. Are you sure that's correct?
Yep.
Well, I know it now based on what you just said, but I don't think you're correct. That's my second guess.
Yes.
Okay.
It is
but
Kain.
What about Rydia?
She doesn't join and she joins, leaves, and joins again. Kain comes, leaves, leaves, comes.
Are you sure?
Well,
She only does twice?
Again. Yeah.
Never played Final Fantasy 4.
Because I was thinking Rydia also did a couple times.
Yeah.
I know she joins and leaves and rejoins.
There's just young Rydia and old Rydia. So
yeah. Right.
So, did y'all play the After Years
Yes.
on the Wii?
Yes.
Dude, that's the only Final Fantasy 4 I played. It was amazing.
So one more thing to report. Since you mentioned Final Fantasy 9, there was a Final Fantasy 14 live web stream conference where they were talking about the game. They were talking about new content they're releasing, and one of the things they're releasing was Zidane and Garnet as I don't know Final Fantasy 14, but I think it's like pet battle minions.
Yep.
In Final Fantasy 14, you can get Zidane and Garnet, and
That's cool.
the developer guy Yoshi whatever. he said, "Yeah, we have a lot of Final Fantasy 9 content we're putting in here, but the reason for that is a secret, and I can't talk about it."
Oh, dude, maybe they're doing a re-release
Right.
or a remaster.
That's right. So
Final Fantasy 9, man.
I'm
next
not
time
saying
we do,
I'm not saying there is a remaster or re-release, but what I just said did happen. He said we do have a lot of Final Fantasy 9 content we're putting in, and it's a big secret.
man, Final Fantasy 9. You talk about back to the basics, like Final Fantasy 9. In fact,
That
when
just happened. Like,
y'all
I think
remember like
today,
when they had commercials, like what their slogan was for Final Fantasy 9 before it released. There was the crystal comes back. Y'all don't remember that? It was like 7 and 8 were such departures from classic Final Fantasy, and they were like, "Look, guys, we're going back to Final Fantasy." And then 9 came out, and it was so classic Final Fantasy with the black mages and the espers. Well, they call them eidolons, but it
there
was
used
such
to
a
be
classic
TV
return.
commercials for video games. Now that's not so much a thing anymore because
Yeah, it is. You just don't watch services with commercials.
Well, now it's all commercials on pre-roll on YouTube and stuff. But you used to be watching used to be on TV watching a sports game, and then while you're watching sports ball, there's a commercial on there for a video game or whatever.
Yeah. So in the chat right now, Chubb and Lewis are talking about. Lewis says that is like the prevailing rumors that there's a Final Fantasy 9 remake coming out after they finish Final Fantasy 7 remake, which Chubb jokingly said so like 2035.
Yeah,
so I think
right.
that's accurate. So, all right, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for watching if you're watching live, or if you're coming back and joining us later on your podcast app of choice. Thank you so much. We appreciate you supporting us. We are having a great time. We hope y'all are enjoying it too. Even if no one watches, we're going to keep doing it because it's fun. And as always, thank you guys for coming to Scion Esports events and playing in our tournaments. Thank you for shopping at Lake Charles Toyota and buying cars from us and servicing cars from us. And thank you guys for watching and listening to the Founders Podcast.